I've always been interested in robotics, but I used to be super intimidated, thinking this is only for someone who has 5 degrees or a super genius with a workshop. So I've decided to overcome it and finally do something I've always wanted to do, using my secret weapon, ADHD hyperfocus. So I laid out my big idea, which was to basically make a heavily Machinedramon inspired AI assistant. If some sort of Skynet situation happens, at least I'm getting taken out by a Digimon. The first step was to research everything, make a phased plan, and find out a list of all the components that I need. This was already super overwhelming, and feature creep is a real thing. Now, since all of my components didn't arrive at once, I had to work with what I had. And that was a Raspberry Pi 5 kit, an Adafruit PC9685, whatever that means, jumper wires, a mini monitor, keyboard, mouse, and my much more powerful PC. Now, surprisingly, the Pi setup was very straightforward, especially with the kit. For the wiring, I followed some diagrams, and apparently these are called pinouts, and this allowed me to connect the PCA board safely. The goal was to get my first servo moving, but that was my first roadblock. I spent an entire day wrestling with Python and Adafruit libraries. The code just wouldn't run, no matter how many times I reflashed the Pi or tried to reinstall the libraries. Everything I tried to do just was failing over and over. But it turns out the new OS on the Pi, Debian Bookworm, has a compatibility issue with Blinka. So shout out to the Adafruit Discord that helped direct me to the issue and gave me the solution to downgrade my version of the library. Sometimes no matter what you do, it's just out of your hands. And with that solved, my test code was finally running and my PCA was alive. So then all I had to do was one more thing, and that's to power in my servos. But then I realized, how am I going to power them? Cue a deep dive into power sources, current, amps, and how not to fry myself. Now, I still don't know what I'm doing when it comes to power sources, but I did land on a 5V 10A wall adapter with a terminal block, and this should scale nicely when it comes to dealing with multiple servos. And while I was waiting for those arrive, I didn't want to lose momentum, so I focused my energy on the AI and coding side. I got set up with API keys for OpenAI for the assistant part and 11 Labs for the voice. I trained a custom deep, gruff voice, something that you might expect from Machinedramon.
I was born a dark master.
And then I blocked out all my code in VS Code, giving myself options if I want to run it locally or on the cloud. This way I won't be completely dependent on companies like 11 Labs, and I get to try out so many other cool, free tools for things like voice cloning. Once I had the voice assistant, I had my MVP, minimum viable product. The next part was 3D modeling, and I started with the head so I could mount my first servo. I printed it, held it in my hands, and here we are now. So if you're into robotics or AI, or you just want to see me bring Machinedramon to life, well, hit that subscribe button because this is only the beginning.